The storm over Naples had been building all day, heavy clouds pressing against the rooftops as if warning the city to stay quiet. But inside the Rinaldi family restaurant on Via Toledo, everything was warm and ordinary, full of clattering plates and the smell of basil, the rhythm of a small, honest life. Alessia Rinaldi wiped down the counter while her father counted the till, humming an old song. She was thinking of exams, of sleep, of anything except danger, until two sharp knocks broke the night. Not light tourist taps, but the kind of deliberate knocks that made silence stretch. Her father looked up, frowning. "Siamo chiusi," he called, friendly but firm. The man outside didn't leave. He lowered his head under the street lamp, and Alessia saw eyes too pale and steady for a stranger, a face carved in calm. "Signor Rinaldi?" he said through the glass. Her father's shoulders stiffened. "Vai su," he murmured to her without turning. She hesitated, but the tone left no room. She slipped toward the kitchen yet stayed behind the curtain, listening. Her father opened the door. The man entered, bringing a gust of sea air and something colder. Dark tailored suit, precise movements, voice smooth as marble. "You have a debt," he said. Marco Rinaldi stared, confused. "No, that was settled. With Giulio." "Giulio is dead," the man replied. "His accounts were sold. You're on the paper. The debt belongs to Lorenzo Vitale." The name fell like lead. Everyone in Naples had heard it. A shadow spoken softly in bars, the kind of man who didn't shout because power made its own echo. "How much?" Marco asked. The number, 50,000, made Alessia's stomach twist. Her father argued, pleaded, but the visitor only placed a card on the counter and left. When the door shut, Marco looked older. "Papa?" Alessia whispered. "Who was that?" "Nobody," he said too quickly. "Old business." "You guaranteed someone else's debt?" she pressed. "Why would you?" "Because sometimes fear feels like friendship," he muttered. "Go to bed." But fear doesn't sleep. A week later, two men arrived in a black Alfa, collected an envelope, mocked its weight, and warned that Signor Vitale didn't like slow payers. One of them let his eyes linger on Alessia until her father stepped between them. That night she couldn't study. She Googled the name Lorenzo Vitale and found only hints: port contracts, construction scandals, a photo from a courtroom where he'd walked out smiling. A man the city both needed and feared. She told herself he would never come personally. She was wrong. Wednesday afternoon, the doorbell rang while she was alone front of house. He entered as if he owned gravity itself. Tall, dark hair, gray-green eyes like the sea before a storm. "Buongiorno," he said politely. "I'm here for Marco." Her father emerged, went pale. "Signor Vitale." The boss looked around the modest room, then at them. "You run an honest place." "I don't like taking from honest people," Alessia couldn't stop herself. "Then don't." Both men turned. Her father glared at her to be quiet. Vitale only looked intrigued. "You're his daughter?" "Yes." "You look like your mother." The words landed like a ghost's touch. "You knew her?" "Everyone knew Isabella Caruso," he said. "She danced at San Carlo. Beautiful woman." The softness vanished. "That's why I came myself. 50,000 is too heavy. You'll pay 2 a week, but interest will drown you." "I have another way." His gaze rested on Alessia. Not predatory, just calculating. "You speak English?" "Yes," she said, defiant. "And French." "Good. I host guests at my villa in Posillipo, politicians, investors. I need someone local, polite, educated. You'll serve, translate, smile. Cash each night. We deduct from the debt." Her father's protest was immediate. "She's not working for you." "Then find 50,000 before Monday," Lorenzo said evenly. Silence. Alessia saw the tremor in her father's hands, saw pride and fear wrestling. "I'll do it," she said. Marco spun. "No. It's just serving," she insisted. "We need the money." Lorenzo studied her, then nodded once. "Friday, 8 o'clock. Wear black. Don't talk unless I tell you. Don't trust anyone who smiles. If there's trouble, look at me." He turned to Marco. "You keep paying. Miss one, and I come back less friendly." Then he left, leaving the door swinging and the smell of rain behind. Friday arrived like judgment. The villa in Posillipo wasn't a house. It was a fortress of glass and marble overlooking the bay. Guards checked her name. A woman with a clipboard, Sophia, explained the rules. Stay invisible, don't flirt, report drunks. And don't look surprised by anything, she warned. The evening blurred into crystal glasses, Italian wine, foreign accents, laughter that sounded like knives. Alessia kept her head down, moving through wealth like a ghost. When one drunken guest slid a hand to her waist, she froze. Before she could react, Lorenzo was there. "She works for me," he said, quiet but lethal. The man withdrew, mumbling apologies. Lorenzo's eyes met hers. "You okay?" "Yes," she managed. "Grazie. If anyone touches you again, tell me." "You can't watch everyone," she murmured. "You think I can't?" he said, and walked away. Weeks passed. She came twice a week, learned faces, earned cash. The debt shrank. Her father's back straightened again. But inside her, something else grew. Lorenzo treated her differently, never flirted, never demanded. But when he looked at her, the world narrowed. He asked about her architecture studies, remembered details. Once he sent a driver so she could photograph coastal ruins for a project. "You didn't have to," she'd said. "I know," he'd replied. Little gestures, dangerous comfort. One stormy night the guests canceled. The villa was nearly empty. She was drying glasses in the kitchen when he entered, jacket off, sleeves rolled, looking more man than myth. "You live far?" "Centro. Bus." "Not tonight," he said, glancing at the rain. "I'll have someone drive you." She smiled. "Is that part of the contract?" "Unwritten," he said, and something softened between them. Then quietly he asked, "Do you know who shot your Uncle Giulio?" The glass slipped from her hand. "What? He was killed last month. Did your father tell you?" "No. He wouldn't. He thinks silence protects you." Her heart pounded. "Did you kill him?" He met her eyes. "No, but I know who did who. Men he owed. Worse than me. Because of him we're here," she whispered. "Because of him," Lorenzo agreed. "I didn't destroy your family. I stopped others from doing it. You still take our money. Because you owe it. Forgive interest, maybe. Principal? Never. Mercy looks like weakness in my world." His tone was matter of fact, but she saw something tired behind it. "Do you ever get tired?" she asked. "Of being feared? You think I chose it? Didn't you?" "No. I was born owing. Learned to collect before they collected me." He paused, voice lowering. "You were never supposed to matter to me. You were supposed to work, pay, disappear. But you don't disappear." Her breath caught. "And now? Now I think about you when I shouldn't." "You can't." "And you can?" he asked. She had no answer. "You're older," she said. "Dangerous. You already knew that when you took the job." He moved closer, rain drumming on the windows. "You weren't supposed to love me," he said softly. "I wasn't supposed to love you." Then he kissed her. Slow, deliberate. The kind of kiss that erases reason. She should have pulled back. Instead she clung, tasting danger like wine. When they parted, both shaking, she whispered, "This is wrong." "Probably." "Then we stop." "Do you want to?" he asked, and she didn't lie. That was how it began. They kept the secret. In public, she was staff. In private, stolen hours in a hidden Sorrento house where he cooked pasta and spoke about a life he might have had. She learned his laugh, his scars, the way he watched the horizon as if expecting bullets. She fell. Completely. Then violence found them again. A Saturday night at the restaurant, tourists eating, laughter loud. 2 motorcycles stopped outside. 4 men walked in. "Where's Marco?" one demanded. Alessia stepped forward. "He's in the back." A hand grabbed her, yanked hard. "Hey!" Her father ran out. "Leave her!" "You should have paid DeLuca," one said. "You pay Vitale, you pay us too." "I don't owe DeLuca," Marco cried. The thug smashed the espresso machine. "Start with this." The second man hit Alessia when she screamed. The world flashed white. Then the door opened again and Lorenzo walked in. Alone, soaked, eyes lethal. "Get out," he said. The men hesitated. "We're here for DeLu." The first gunshot cut him off. The other fell, leg bleeding. Smoke filled the air. "No guns in my city without telling me," Lorenzo said calmly. "No touching people who pay me. No touching their daughters." He let one limp away with a message. "Tell DeLuca Naples belongs to Vitale." Then he turned to Alessia, thumb brushing the blood at her lip. "You okay?" She nodded, trembling. Her father moaned on the floor. "Why would they?" "Because when you're weak, vultures come," Lorenzo said. "I told you." "We did everything you asked," Marco said. "And still they came." "Because I destroyed the wrong man," Lorenzo murmured. "And didn't finish the job." Alessia stared. "What?" "Your uncle. He wasn't just a gambler. He laundered for DeLuca. Used your restaurant's name. I ordered the fire in Pozzuoli. Thought it ended there. I was wrong." "You ordered it?" she whispered. "You killed him." "I didn't pull the trigger. But yes, I gave the order." Silence crashed heavier than thunder. "You destroyed my family," she said, tears hot, then came pretending to save it. "I didn't want to love you," he said, raw. "I came to collect, not to feel." "I hate you," she sobbed. "I know. You should be in prison. Probably. But prison can't protect you. I can. If I leave, others will come. If they touch you, it means war. Then we're prisoners." "No," he said quietly. "You'll live. Study, Mary. But everyone will know you're under Vitale. That's safety. What do you get?" "To see you," he said simply. "Even if you hate me." "That's not love." "Maybe not. But it's what I have." The city learned fast. After that night, no one came near Rinaldi's. DeLuca vanished from sight. The restaurant thrived again, eerily untouchable. Lorenzo paid the remaining debt himself. He stopped coming. Weeks passed. Then Sophia visited. "He's preparing for war," she told Alessia outside the restaurant. "He wants to end DeLuca for good." "He'll die," Alessia said. "Maybe. Why tell me?" "Because you still matter to him." That night, Alessia went to Sorrento. He was on the terrace, staring at the sea. "You shouldn't be here," he said softly. "You're leaving," she replied. "I wanted to say goodbye." "You think I'll die?" "I think you might." He smiled faintly. "Then it's good you came." She stepped closer. "Why do this?" "Because as long as they breathe, you're not safe. I can leave Naples. You shouldn't have to." He turned to her, eyes tired. "I meant what I said. You weren't supposed to love me. It ruins everything." "You ruined enough," she whispered. "I know. That's why I'll finish this and then disappear." She shook her head, tears rising. "I hate you for making me love you." He caught her hands, pressed them to his chest. "I hate me for the same reason." They held each other until dawn, knowing it was borrowed time. When news came weeks later, a shootout near Caserta, cars burned, Vitale wounded but alive, she cried in the kitchen, half grief, half relief. Life returned to uneasy peace. One spring evening he came back, arm in a sling, clothes simple. "Ciao," he said in the doorway. "You're alive." Disappointed? "A little." He smiled faintly. "I came to say goodbye properly. I'll stay away. You deserve a life that doesn't bleed." "Maybe I don't want normal." "You do," he said, "and I can't give it to you. One day someone will come for me. They'll look for my weakness. That's you. So you punish me for it? I save you from it. I don't want to be saved. Too bad. You weren't supposed to love me. And you weren't supposed to love me, but you do." "I do," he admitted, voice breaking. "That's why I have to go." He kissed her forehead, lingering. "Marry someone kind. There's no one like you." "Grazie a Dio," he murmured, and walked into the night. He didn't come back after that night, and at first Alessia told herself that was good. That distance would make her forget the taste of him, the sound of his voice, the way his eyes looked when he said her name. But forgetting was like trying to hold water in her hands. It kept slipping through, leaving her restless and aching. The restaurant thrived, the city moved on, and Naples returned to its rhythm of noise and salt and gossip. Yet every time a black car idled too long on Via Toledo, she felt her pulse spike. Half hope, half dread. Her father noticed her distraction but said nothing, grateful only that the shadows had retreated from their door. Lorenzo Vitale had vanished back into myth. Some said he'd gone north. Others whispered he was rebuilding his empire quietly. But to her, he remained a constant ghost, alive in every echo of an engine, in every dream where he appeared silent, bleeding, smiling. Months bled into a year. She finished her degree, presented her thesis on coastal architecture, received polite applause, and walked out into the sunshine, feeling the hollow space where joy should have been. That night, she sat on the rooftop and watched the lights of Posillipo glitter like fallen constellations. Somewhere among them, she imagined him watching too, unable to stop himself, protecting her from afar like a sinner guarding a prayer he could never say aloud. By the second year, she'd opened a small design studio near Piazza Bellini, modest but hers. The restaurant below served tourists and locals without fear, and her father finally laughed again, though his hair had gone more gray than before. Life had become safe, predictable, maybe even good. Yet sometimes she caught her reflection in the studio window and saw the woman she'd become, older, steadier, but still waiting for a door to open that never would. Then one humid evening in July, while she was locking up, a boy barely 20 appeared with a delivery envelope. No return address, just her name written in a hand she recognized instantly. Inside were documents, property deeds, bank transfers, tuition receipts, all proving what she already suspected. Lorenzo had paid for everything. At the bottom, a note in his writing. "Now you owe no one. L." She pressed the paper to her chest, fighting the tremor in her hands. It should have angered her. Instead, it felt like being touched across miles, like hearing his voice in the dark. Weeks later, Sophia walked into the studio unannounced, elegant as ever, but carrying the weariness of someone who'd seen too much. "He asked me to check on you," she said. Alessia's heart lurched. "He's alive?" "Very. Though he shouldn't be. Rome was bloody, Milan worse. But he's cleaning house. Why?" "Because he wants a quiet world for you," Sophia said, as if it were the simplest fact. "He thinks if he burns enough bridges, one day you'll be able to cross a street without his shadow." Alessia looked down at her ink-stained fingers. "Tell him that shadow never left." Sophia smiled faintly. "I think he knows." Then she added, "He won't reach out again. He believes staying away is love. Then he's a coward. Or a man finally trying to do something right. Sophia said, and left. Time did its slow magic. The ache dulled, but never died. Lovers came and went. Kind men who brought flowers or laughter, but not the dangerous gravity Lorenzo had carried in his silence. None of them could fill the space he'd carved inside her. Years folded over themselves, until one autumn afternoon a journalist came by the restaurant asking questions about the Vitale legacy. Alessia listened from the kitchen as her father answered carefully, voice even. The reporter said Lorenzo had been seen in Switzerland, then in Palermo, then nowhere. Rumors said he'd disappeared entirely. Good riddance, the journalist joked. Men like him never change. Marco just smiled faintly and said, maybe once. When the man left, he looked at his daughter and sighed. He's not coming back, figlia mia. She nodded but didn't answer. That night she walked to the waterfront, wind tangling her hair, the bay black and endless, and whispered into the waves. You weren't supposed to love me, remember? The wind carried no reply, but for a moment she felt watched, not threatened, just seen. Another year passed. Her studio grew. She started designing coastal houses, small and bright, places meant for peace. One client, a retired couple, invited her to oversee a renovation in Sorrento. The address made her pulse stop. A narrow road lined with lemon trees, the same one that led to his hidden house. She told herself it was coincidence, yet when she arrived the gate was unlocked, the villa shuttered but intact, as if waiting. Dust coated the counters, but a faint scent of his cologne still lingered in the wood. On the table lay a single photograph in a silver frame, a view of the bay at dawn, signed on the back, for A. In case you forget the light. She sat in the quiet until the sun set, tears sliding without permission, then locked the door behind her and left it as it was, a relic of something both sinful and sacred. Life marched forward. Naples changed mayors. The port expanded. New cranes rose where old warehouses had burned. Tourists filled the streets, unaware of the wars once fought in shadows. Alessia turned 31, then 32. Her father retired, leaving the restaurant to new managers. She traveled, to Rome, to Paris for conferences, but always returned to the same apartment above the same street, because some roots refuse to die. One winter evening, rain streaking the windows, she sat at her desk sketching a coastal villa when the power flickered and a faint hum of engines rose outside. She froze. Old instincts. She walked to the balcony and saw a black car parked across the street. Two men stood by it, unmoving in the drizzle, collars up. Her breath caught. One of them looked up just once, met her eyes, then tapped his earpiece and nodded toward the car. The rear window lowered halfway. For an instant she saw him. Older, silver threaded through the black hair, a scar along the jaw, but unmistakably him. Lorenzo. He didn't smile. He just looked at her, long enough for her heart to break all over again. Then the window slid up, and the car pulled away. She stood there long after the taillights vanished, rain soaking her hair, a laugh sob escaping her, because of course this was how it would be. No words, no promises, just proof that he was still out there keeping watch. In the days that followed, she pretended nothing had happened, but small signs appeared. A security camera installed outside the restaurant without request, a stranger fixing her building's front lock, envelopes with no sender containing receipts for donations to orphanages under her mother's name. Each was his way of speaking without breaking his vow. She never reached out, and he never appeared again. But sometimes, walking home through the narrow alleys of Naples, she felt the city itself had shifted, as if unseen eyes cleared her path. 10 years after their first meeting, the paper finally published the story. Mafia reformer or ghost? The enigma of Lorenzo Vitale. The article spoke of a man who'd dismantled his own network, handed territories to rivals, vanished into exile. Some called it repentance, others strategy. Alessia clipped the piece and tucked it inside a book on architecture, between pages describing arches strong enough to hold entire cities. She didn't know if he was alive or dead. She only knew that Naples felt strangely safer than before, and that somewhere beyond the headlines, the man she hadn't been supposed to love had kept his promise. That spring, she opened her second studio on the coast. On Inauguration Day, as guests toasted under string lights, a delivery truck arrived with a final gift. A single olive tree in a white planter, its tag handwritten. From one who once owed you everything. She touched the rough bark, understanding. She placed it by the window where it could see the sea, where the wind from Posillipo could brush its leaves. Years later, when she was older and her hair carried threads of silver like his had, Alessia would tell her apprentices about designing for resilience. A building, she'd say, should bend without breaking, should hold even when storms come. And sometimes, after closing, she'd pour herself a glass of wine and walk out to the terrace where the olive tree still stood, whispering to the dark bay, "You weren't supposed to love me, but you did." The wind off the water would answer softly through the leaves, and she would smile, because somewhere out there, whether in this life or the next, she knew he was still watching. The man who had once destroyed her family and then spent the rest of his life protecting what was left of it.